The pressure cooker was building up steam. Sam, desperate to find a way out without involving Lily, made a rash decision. He reached out to one of the names he'd seen in his father's ledger, a man who was rumored to be looking for the satchel. Sam met the man, whose name was Joe, in a grimy roadside diner, the fluorescent lights humming over their heads. Sam offered Joe the satchel, the key to the old land fraud, in exchange for a guarantee of safety for himself and Lily. Joe was a cold, efficient man who didn't smile. He agreed to the deal, but his eyes, sharp and assessing, lingered a little too long on Sam's face. Joe demanded the satchel be delivered the following night, after midnight, at the old, deserted mill on the edge of town. Sam felt a flicker of hope, a desperate feeling that this was the end of his lie. Meanwhile, Lily, hearing rumors of Sam's hurried trip to the diner, cornered Mr. Silas. She told him, her voice desperate, about Sam's business with Joe. She presented it as a threat to her new investment. "If Sam gets in trouble," she pleaded, "your money is at risk. You have to stop him, Mr. Silas. Protect us." Mr. Silas smiled, a thin, chilling expression. "You worry about the bakery, my dear," he said. "I'll handle your Sam, and I'll ensure your loyalty remains with me." Lily spent the next day feeling like she was walking underwater, the air heavy and distorted. She had betrayed Sam's trust to a cold, powerful man, convinced she was saving him. She didn't know what Sam was giving Joe, only that it was dangerous. She was certain Mr. Silas would simply intercept the meeting, maybe buy off Joe, and keep Sam safe, tied to Harmony Creek and her. She didn't anticipate the brutality of Mr. Silas. Sam, meanwhile, was preparing to leave the house late that night, the satchel hidden under his worn jacket. He told Lily he was going to a late-night carpentry auction, another thin lie. Lily looked at him, her eyes clouded with guilt and love. She wanted to grab him, tell him about Mr. Silas, tell him about her desperate, awful plan to save him, but the fear of exposing her own deceit held her tongue captive. She could only kiss him on the cheek, a kiss that felt like goodbye. "Be careful, Sam," she whispered, her heart hammering. "Please, just be careful." Sam smiled, a genuine smile this time, because he truly believed that by morning, he would be free of the burden, and their life could finally begin, honest and whole. He walked out the door, the heavy satchel swinging by his side, oblivious that Lily's secret was now a far greater threat than his own. The meeting at the deserted mill was cold and tense. The moon was a sliver of white above the dark, skeletal structure. Sam waited, the satchel in his hand. But when the car pulled up, it wasn't Joe. It was Mr. Silas. Sam froze, the blood draining from his face. Mr. Silas stepped out, his shadow long and menacing in the faint moonlight. "Sam," he said, his voice calm, "Lily tells me you've been carrying some baggage. Bad decisions from a dead father, is that right? Joe is a foolish man. This is my kind of business now." Sam felt a crushing realization. Lily had involved this man. She had gone to the one person Sam instinctively knew was dangerous, the one person whose money always came with a heavy cost. "Lily told you?" Sam asked, his voice raw with disbelief and hurt. "How would Lily even know about this?" Mr. Silas chuckled, a dry, papery sound. "Lily is a practical woman, Sam. She knows where the real power lies. She came to me seeking protection. She thinks I'm going to buy your silence and keep you safe." Sam understood everything now. Lily's expensive gifts, her late nights, the sudden prosperity of her bakery. It was all tied to this man, and she had used her connection to him to interfere in Sam's deepest secret. His lie had pushed her into a lie of her own, a far more dangerous one. The two secrets had finally met, not to merge, but to explode. "You're wrong, Silas," Sam spat, clutching the satchel tighter. "Lily is an honest woman. You lied to her." Silas shrugged, dismissive. "Maybe, but she brought me here. Now the satchel, Sam. Give it to me. I need the leverage of those old deeds to secure my own operations in this county. I'll make sure Joe and his friends disappear, and I'll let you and Lily walk away. You'll be beholden to me, of course, but safe." Sam saw the trap. Freedom in exchange for eternal debt, and the terrible knowledge that Lily had traded their honesty for a second bakery and a silk scarf. But he couldn't let Silas get the satchel. It was the last thing protecting the innocent families named in the ledger. He made his move, a desperate attempt to throw the satchel into the murky river, to destroy the evidence forever. But Mr. Silas was faster, and maybe Joe had been watching after all. A struggle ensued, quick and brutal in the shadows of the mill. Sam went down hard, the satchel skidding across the dirt floor, stopping right at the edge of the rushing water. Lily was waiting up for Sam, pacing their small porch, the air vibrating with guilt. She had planned to tell him everything the moment he walked through the door. Her lie about Mr. Silas, her desperate hope to save him, her fear. But then she heard the distant, unmistakable sound of a car squealing away from the old mill, followed by a heavy, unnatural silence. A cold wave of terror washed over her. She knew, with a certainty that reached into the core of her soul, that her plan had failed, that her lie had created a monster she couldn't control. She grabbed the keys, her hands shaking, and drove the little car faster than it had ever gone, back towards the deserted mill, the place where she hoped to find her future and feared finding her ruin. The mill was dark and empty when she arrived. No cars, no Joe, no Mr. Silas. Only Sam, lying still on the dirt, a dark stain spreading on his shirt, his eyes open and staring at the sky. He was breathing, shallow and ragged, but he was hurt, badly. Lily rushed to him, cradling his head in her lap, the dirt and the coppery smell of blood filling her senses. She sobbed, rocking him gently. Sam! Oh, my love, Sam! What happened? Who did this? Sam looked up at her, and his eyes, though clouded with pain, held a clear, terrible accusation. He spoke, his voice barely a rasp, the last, bitter truth spilling out. Silas, Lily, Silas, he said. You brought him here. You traded my life for your bakery. He didn't ask it as a question. He stated it as a fact, the final, fatal consequence of their twin deceptions. Lily tried to explain, her words tumbling out in a desperate, broken stream. No, Sam, I didn't know. I only told him about Joe to protect you. I thought he would just scare them off. I was trying to save us. Sam, I was trying to buy our future. But the words, loud with anguish, could not reach him. He had already heard the final truth. The lie of her trust was what had brought the danger to his doorstep. He saw the hypocrisy, the painful, inescapable fact that they had both loved each other enough to risk everything, but had not trusted each other enough to risk the truth. As the first faint gray light of dawn touched the horizon, Sam faded. His breathing hitched, caught, and then went still. Lily held him, howling his name into the stillness of the morning, a sound so full of despair that even the crickets fell silent. She was left alone with the crushing weight of her desperate lie, the one she told for love. She knew she was responsible. Her secret partnership with Mr. Silas had been the fuse. She had tried to fight fire with fire, and only succeeded in burning down the whole house. She felt the irony like a physical blow. Sam had been willing to face the threat of his past alone, sacrificing his happiness for her safety, while she had tried to control his threat by bringing in a greater danger, sacrificing their honesty for his security. They had both been working towards the same goal, protection, but their methods, rooted in individual deceit, had led them to this ruinous, irreversible end. The love was immense, but the space between their two lies was where the bullet had found its mark. Lily didn't call the police right away. She sat there, numb with grief and cold, until the sun was high and bright. She had to understand the full weight of the loss, the completeness of the betrayal, before she could face the world. She finally rose, her legs stiff, and saw the satchel. It was still there, right by the river's edge, half buried in the wet dirt. Mr. Silas hadn't taken it. He must have been frightened away by something, perhaps Joe's unexpected return, or maybe he simply heard the car approaching. Lily picked up the satchel, the leather cold and heavy in her hands. She finally opened it fully, taking out the ledger, the deeds, and the brass serpent pin. It all felt so small, so irrelevant now. This was the cause of Sam's silence, the reason for his strained brow and his midnight fears. She realized that the whole time, Sam had been trying to get rid of a poison, and she, in her own frantic need to secure their future, had accidentally delivered him to the source of the antidote's destruction. Her secret funding, her connection to Silas, was a web that wrapped around Sam's secret, pulling them both under. The truth they had both buried had simply found a violent, public way to reveal itself. She went home and called Sheriff Ray, the retired one who had helped her before, knowing the official police force might be connected to the land scheme in the ledger. Ray came quickly, his old face etched with sorrow. He took one look at Sam and the satchel and understood the whole miserable story without a single word from Lily. He saw the kind of southern tragedy that happens when good people get caught up in old, bad money. Lily turned over the satchel and the ledger to Ray. "These are for the families who were cheated," she said, her voice hollow. "Sam died trying to protect the truth, even the truth that wasn't his." She realized that Sam's lie was about courage and protection, while hers was about fear and material control, a tragic imbalance that the love between them could not overcome. The grief was a physical companion now, sitting heavy on the porch swing, drinking up the sweet tea. The town of Harmony Creek didn't know the full story, but they knew enough. They saw the quiet, steady Lily, suddenly hollowed out, wearing black like a permanent shadow. They saw the closed doors of the sweet spot, the bread dough lying unbaked. They knew Sam was gone, and they heard the whispers about the powerful men involved. Mr. Silas disappeared quickly, like mist on a hot morning, taking his tainted money and his second bakery offers with him. Lily was left with the ruins of her life and the painful, relentless realization that love is not a shield against deceit. It is a light, and when two people choose to stand in the dark, even if they stand close enough to touch, the darkness will eventually swallow the light whole. The light of their love had been so bright, but the two shadows they cast were what the town would remember. Lily had to choose now. Keep running the bakery, a constant, sharp reminder of her lie, or walk away from the town that held every memory of her greatest joy and her greatest sorrow. The weight of the accusation in Sam's dying eyes was the hardest thing to carry. It followed Lily everywhere, a silent judge in the empty house. She knew she could never be the same person she was before the lie. The idea of opening the sweet spot again, of putting on a cheerful apron and selling bread bought with the memory of betrayal, felt like a mockery of Sam's honest soul. She started cleaning out the house, getting ready to leave Harmony Creek, selling off everything except the porch swing where they used to whisper their beautiful, doomed plans. She found the silver locket Sam had thrown away, retrieved by a curious raccoon from the trash barrel. Lily wiped the dirt off the glass and looked at the worried face of the woman inside. She finally understood. The woman in the locket, like her, had been caught in the web of Sam's father's bad decisions. Sam had been trying to erase that history to keep Lily from becoming a part of it, and in doing so, he erased their future instead. The lie was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Lily made one last trip to the woodshed. She stared at the spot where Sam's secret lay buried. The floorboard was now sealed shut with new nails. Ray had done it for her. She didn't feel rage or sadness anymore, just a deep, exhausted pity for the two people they had been, circling each other with terrible, loving intentions. She realized that the lie had started not in the satchel, or with Mr. Silas, but the moment they decided that their love wasn't strong enough to withstand the ugliest truth. They had given the lie all the power, treating it like a fragile, dangerous child that needed to be protected from the harsh light of their affection. She left the woodshed, closing the door softly. She wasn't leaving Harmony Creek in defeat. She was leaving to find a place where she could finally tell the whole story, to herself and to the stars. She realized the only path forward was radical, complete honesty, a clean slate washed by the salty rain of tears. Before she left, she walked down to Harmony Creek for the last time. It was sunset, and the fireflies were beginning to switch on their quiet lanterns. She stood by the old willow tree, the one she had been sketching when she first saw Sam. She spoke to the water, her voice low and steady, a final confession that only the river could hear. She recounted every detail. Sam's fear, the satchel, her desperation, Mr. Silas's chilling smile, the money, the watch, the whole messy, heartbreaking mess. She didn't spare herself the painful facts. She admitted that her fear of losing the security and the dream was stronger than her faith in Sam's character. She admitted that her secret meetings felt like a power she could wield, a necessary corruption to balance the danger he brought. And when she was done, she felt the truth settle deep inside her, heavy but clean. Lily sold the house and the bakery to an old, kind couple who promised to keep the yeast healthy and the porch swing oiled. She left Harmony Creek with one small suitcase and the silver locket. She knew she couldn't stay there, where every dirt road and every sunset held the ghost of the life they had killed with their silence. The love, Lord knows, was enough to build a kingdom, but the fear that fueled the lies was enough to bring it all crumbling down. She took the road north, away from the smell of sweet tea and the soft rhythm of the southern night. She was gone, leaving behind only the simple, tragic moral of the story. When two hearts are bound by love but separated by deceit, the light between them can only reach so far before the shadows win the day. Life outside Harmony Creek was quiet, colorless, and honest. Lily found a job in a city cafe, serving coffee instead of baking bread. The money was meager, but it was earned in the full light of day, without any secret deals or whispered promises. She carried the silver locket as a talisman, a constant, tiny weight of remembrance. She never told anyone the full story, but she carried the lesson in her soul, that love demands the highest form of courage, the courage to be fully known, flaw and all. She missed Sam every single day, the way he smelled of sawdust and sunshine, the strength of his arms, the promise in his eyes. But she knew that even if he had lived, the truth would have been too wide a gap for them to cross. The silence they nurtured had become a monstrous, separate thing that lived in the heart of their home. The years passed slowly, like a wagon stuck in thick mud. Lily's hair began to show threads of silver, and the sharpness of her grief softened into a dull, constant ache. She often thought about the pin Sam's father mentioned, the serpent and the hammer. She looked it up once, discreetly, and found it was the symbol of an old, secretive business guild, confirming the danger Sam had faced. She learned that Mr. Silas had indeed been part of that guild, leveraging old debts and crimes for his own gain. Her lie hadn't just cost her a future. It had enabled a criminal. She had to live with that. She knew that the most addictive part of a secret is the feeling of control it gives you, and that control is always an illusion. She finally understood that love isn't a magical force that fixes everything. It's a foundation, and if you build on top of it with lies, the structure is doomed to fall, beautiful and tragic, for all the world to see. The truth is, Sam didn't die that night. He was found by Ray and was rushed to the county hospital, alive but grievously wounded. Ray, the old sheriff, kept Sam's survival a secret, telling everyone, including Lily, that he hadn't made it. Ray did this out of a deep, sorrowful understanding of the situation. He knew that for Lily to survive the guilt and Silas's threat, she had to believe the story was finished. And for Sam to recover without the danger of Silas returning, he needed to disappear completely. Ray told Sam, once he was strong enough to talk, that Lily had left town, devastated and broken, unable to face the truth she had unleashed. Sam believed it. He was discharged months later, a quiet, scarred man who walked with a limp and a deep, permanent shadow in his heart. He didn't return to Harmony Creek. He took his meager savings, a new identity given to him by Ray, and went to work on a quiet fishing boat far up the coast, where the air was cold and the secrets stayed buried under the deep water. Sam lived a solitary life, his love for Lily a heavy, perfect anchor he carried everywhere. He blamed the lies entirely on himself. He thought, if I had just trusted her with the truth, she wouldn't have run to Silas out of fear. She wouldn't have been forced to choose money over honesty. He never stopped thinking of her, but he knew the gap between them was too vast. He had left her. She had abandoned the town. and the physical distance was just the final echo of the emotional distance their secrets had created. He spent his days hauling nets, the repetitive, mindless labor easing the pressure in his mind. He never looked back. He couldn't. He figured he had paid the price for his father's sins, and Lily had paid the price for trusting a man who couldn't trust his own heart to tell the ugly truth. 20 years later, Lily returned to Harmony Creek. Not to stay, but just to visit the quiet, sun-drenched cemetery where she believed Sam was buried. She drove her little, worn-out car slowly past the overgrown fields and the few new houses. The town felt ancient, preserved in amber. She walked to the small, unmarked plot Ray had shown her all those years ago, a plot that was just symbolic, a place for her grief to rest. She knelt down, the sun warm on her back, and whispered her final goodbye, a full, honest reckoning of her deceit. "I was wrong, Sam love," she whispered. "I was a coward. I loved the dream more than the man." As she rose to leave, she noticed a small, familiar object half buried near the stone. A tarnished brass pin, the serpent coiled around the hammer. Her heart leaped. No one else knew that symbol. Only Sam and those connected to the old, buried lie. Lily didn't rush. She just stood still, feeling the warmth of the sun and the cold prickle of the impossible truth. She went straight to Ray, the old, retired sheriff, who was sitting on his porch, whittling wood. He didn't look surprised to see her. He just stopped carving, his knife poised over the wood, and looked at her with his knowing, tired eyes. "Ray," Lily said, her voice shaking, "I was at the cemetery. The pin, the serpent, and the hammer. I know Sam isn't there. Tell me." Ray sighed, a long, weary sound, and told her the whole 20-year-old truth. Sam lived. He disappeared. He blamed himself. Ray explained that the pin was a coded message, left by Sam on a previous, secret visit to the town. A signal to Ray that he was still alive, still free of Mr. Silas. Lily took the news not with joy, but with a profound, aching sorrow. They had both survived the violence, only to be separated by a deeper, more enduring lie, the lie of death. She had mourned him, and he had lived in the perpetual guilt of her loss. She asked Ray where Sam was, but Ray only shook his head. "He's gone to the sea, Lily. He's done with the land and the secrets it holds. He thinks you've moved on, found a new life, clean and honest." Lily knew she couldn't just walk into his life now. 20 years later, a ghost of his past, especially after believing he was dead. The original deceit, their mutual silence, had created a chasm so wide that even the truth couldn't bridge it anymore. She decided to leave him his peace. Lily went back to the quiet city cafe, but she felt lighter now. Sam was alive. Her ultimate sin was undone. She realized that the deepest tragedy wasn't the violence at the mill, but the quiet, slow death of trust that preceded it. The secret she carried, the belief that Sam was dead, was the last, most powerful lie. Now that it was gone, she was truly free. Sam, on his distant fishing boat, felt a sudden, inexplicable shift in the heavy anchor in his heart. It didn't lift, but it felt lighter, warmer. He didn't know why. He just suddenly felt a wave of forgiveness wash over him, a sense that the price had finally been fully paid. He was looking out at the cold, gray water, the salt wind whipping his hair, and he knew he would never see Harmony Creek again. Lily and Sam lived out the rest of their days separated by miles of land and water, each believing the other was finally safe, finally honest, finally free. Their love, the fire that started on the creek bank, burned bright and true inside them both until their final days. But they never spoke again. The love was never the question. The truth and the courage to face it together was the one thing that had been lacking. And in the end, they were living proof that sometimes, deep and true as it is, love just wasn't enough to survive the lies they told each other in its name. They were two boats, tied to the same dock, that cut their ropes at the same time and sailed in opposite directions, carried by the strong current of their necessary, heartbreaking deceit.